Good morning, everybody. I'm Jody Foster. I'm one of the public information officers at the Emergency Operations Center. As we've done for the last few days, we're going to have a number of speakers for you today, and then we're going to follow up with media questions. We've got some people joining with us online, so please make sure your cameras and mics are off if they aren't already. And with setting the stage like that, we'll ask, please, Chair Wildridge to come forward.
Thanks, Jody. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all again. Before we begin today, I would like to take the time to acknowledge that we're gathered on the traditional, ancestral, unceded Demulau of the Central Okanagan people who have called these lands home since time immemorial. Thank you all for being here today to share this information with our residents. This is the 6th press conference for the Regional District Emergency Operations Center in response to the Central Okanagan wildfires. Today, we're joined by BC Wildfire Service, fire chiefs, emergency support services, and emergency operations center directors, who will provide an update on the wildfire, update on the ESS process, an overview of notification processes for homes that were lost or damaged, and the next steps moving forward. I would like to extend my gratitude on behalf of all residents to Chief Broland, Chief Whiting, Chief Lee, Chief Kaczorowski, as well as the BC Wildfire team and all the firefighters that have been working so hard on these fires. I'd also like to thank our RCMP partners and everyone else working on the front lines. Your presence and knowledge provides us a sense of calm amidst uncertainty, and your stories from the front lines inspire us. There's not enough words to thank you for your continued efforts on the front lines, but also the time you take away from the front lines to speak to all of us. And I had the opportunity to visit the West Side yesterday, and we ate at a local restaurant. And I also want to thank the community that asked if we were evacuees, because many restaurants are just providing free meals to evacuees and those that need support. So thank you to all the community members that are stepping up. Yesterday, alongside local leaders, we met with Premier David Eby, Minister Harjit Sajjan, Minister Bowen Ma, and Minister Bruce Walston to survey the damages, meet evacuees, and discuss the needs of our region for recovery. We know we have a long road ahead of us, and recovery is going to take time, investment, and commitment from all levels of government. Please know that myself, Chief Louis, Mayor Dias, Mayor Milsom, and Mayor Ireland are committed to advocating on behalf of our residents. We will continue to call on the government to deliver the support that we need to heal. Helping people at the ESS has continued to be a challenge. We know our volunteers are working as fast as they can. We also know that it's unacceptable to keep people waiting. We have added even more resources to support an expedited process for the unprecedented amount of people who need help. We are committed to continuing to work with volunteers in the province to overcome this. Before I close, I want to acknowledge the hard work of our regional emergency operations team. Yesterday, I received feedback from someone within the BC Wildfire Service who said this was one of the best tactical coordination efforts in their 28-year career. This coordination is possible because of our EOC that is a model. All local governments and West Bank First Nation work together and deploy resources to provide a coordinated response to all residents across the Central Okanagan. Our EOC team works around the clock during these emergencies to keep people safe. Many have reached out to ask why alerts or orders haven't been lifted, but please know that our EOC team is working with chiefs and everyone on the ground to lift them as soon as possible. We recognize that with the blue skies, people are going to ask even more when are orders and alerts going to be lifted. Please know this is top of mind and officials will update us accordingly. As I said yesterday, some of the most challenging days are ahead. People and communities will learn of monumental loss. This will be a process of grief collectively. As we move into recovery, the needs of each impacted community will be different. Some communities have experienced greater impacts and losses and will take more time to recover. I am confident that our collective resilience will guide us forward. Let us honor the sacrifices and efforts made by so many over the past few days by confronting these challenges with unity and compassion. United as a region, we will recover, rebuild, and restore. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Wooldridge. Next, we'd like to invite Doug Gilchrist, City of Kelowna Manager, and today's Emergency Operations Center Director to the mic.
Thanks, Jody. Good morning, everyone. It's certainly my pleasure to be here this morning to provide some much anticipated information and to address you all. I'm your EOC director today, but I'm also flanked by some of the directors who've been part of this event since the beginning, and I want to recognize their efforts and thank and appreciate all of them. This is our last official daily briefing from the EOC. Our 5 communities have been working really well together in the EOC for the past week on this event, and we also have been working on an orderly transition to the recovery phase. While we recognize the emergency is not over in many areas, and you'll hear from our chiefs on the status of that in a few minutes, we have been working in parallel with those response efforts on ensuring a strong recovery plan. A plan is well underway to help each community with that long road to recovery that Chair Wooldridge has mentioned. We will remain well coordinated. However, the communities being at different stages of this event, the City of Kelowna and the District of Lake Country will start to manage the recovery phase directly in their own communities. West Kelowna, West Bank First Nation, the Regional District of the Central Okanagan will certainly require more significant efforts with respect to recovery with the assistance of provincial resources and a more robust strategy. Additional information on that process will certainly come forward in the coming days. Our immediate priority continues to be getting people home as soon as it is safe to do so. And I'm happy to report to you today that we will be downgrading some properties in Kelowna, West Kelowna, and Lake Country, allowing more residents back into their homes. The details on that can be found, of course, at Court Emergency website for all the details and maps associated. Well, we have done damage assessments and safety assessments for the areas where people are returning. I want to remind everyone who's returning to your home to be cautious around those properties. Unstable ground, danger trees, and things of the like may certainly still exist. And please do not go into the forested areas around the homes. Those have not been assessed in the same way or investigated. Yesterday, we did speak about the assessments being done on all the properties which have been affected by the fire and promised to get you the information about the number of damage and lost structures. The fire chiefs will be able to speak to those numbers a little bit in a few minutes this morning. Well, this is a devastating loss for many, and certainly our hearts go out to all those who have lost homes or had property damage. I certainly recognized from our flight around the area yesterday that it could have been much, much worse. Were it not for the efforts of BC Wildfire Service, our local and regional fire responders, and all of the other first responders that were there to assist throughout the event. I want to thank those first responders, both from our region and from all those communities. I know the days have been long and the work difficult, and I also know the fire chiefs and others have been recognizing you throughout the week, but I wanted to make sure you heard it from the municipalities, from the EOC, and from the city managers. I also want to recognize our staff. Staff from all communities in the region have been working extraordinarily long days for the past week, and I want to make sure each and every one of you know how much we appreciate your passion for your community, your public service, and your extraordinary efforts. Moving along to one of the key reasons we're here today, we have been working to get the information about damaged properties out as quickly as possible, ensuring that it is accurate. Later today, we'll have a place on the courtemergency.ca website where homeowners in West Kelowna, West Bank First Nation lands, and RDCO can look up their addresses and get the status of their property. This process is necessary to do it through a web-based model because of the number of properties that have been impacted. When you get to the website, you'll be asked to put in your address and you will immediately get a response whether your property is fine or whether it has been damaged, partial or total structural loss. If your property is not listed as having significant damage, it does not mean you can go home. All the alerts and orders are still in place for those areas. We're looking to do removal of evacuation orders as quickly as possible and when it's safe to do so, And as always, go to the Court Emergency website for that detailed information. If your property has partial or total structural loss, we'll ask you to complete a brief online form to give us some information so that we can make some good decisions around that property, and also contact you and have further detailed discussions. When it's safe to do so, we will be looking to have the property owners who have had losses taken out to those properties on a priority basis. If you do not have access to the internet to go on and check that property, of course, you can go to the EOC Public Information Line, 250-469-8490, and one of our staff will walk you through that. I know it's going to be difficult information for people to receive. They are your homes and critically important pieces of your family and assets, and it'll be a challenging, difficult conversations. There's a number of support services listed on courtemergency.ca, and I would encourage everyone to use those. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And now we're going to move to some more operational updates. If we could please have Brad Litke from BC Wildfire.
Good morning. Thanks for having me here today. So the Grouse Complex comprises of the 3 wildfires in the region, which is the McDougall Creek, the Walroy Lake, and the Clark Creek. As of yesterday, we have a total of 571 firefighters assigned to these complexes. And that doesn't include our friends with the RCMP, hydro and other utilities, as well as all of the EOCs. So that's what we have on the ground. From a weather perspective and an update there, some good news is some of our weather stations around the fires have shown up to 6.2 millimeters of rain from the overnight hours, primarily on the north side of the McDougall Creek fire. And the West Kelowna weather station captured and measured 22 millimeters of precipitation overnight. Today, the temperatures should remain cooler and reaching a high of only 22 degrees Celsius, with relative humidity values reaching minimums of 45 to 55%. That's going to aid us in keeping the fire behavior low today for a little bit more stability, and will allow us to make greater progress on the fire ground. The afternoon winds should be from the southwest at 10 to 20, gusting 30 to 40 kilometers an hour. Specifically to the McDougall Creek, tracked yesterday at 12,270 hectares. We've seen an improvement of the visibility from the heavy smoke conditions over the previous days, which has allowed us to get better, not only tracks on the fire, but more of our aviation assets in the air. The incident has a total of 17 helicopters assigned to the complex. And last night on the McDougall Creek, we had 40 structural personnel, 22 firefighters working along the RCMP. Today on the ground, 64 firefighters, 14 operational single resources, and 177 structural protection personnel working alongside BC Hydro, who is reconnecting power to critical infrastructure, as well as providing safety to the responders along areas where hydro lines have been impacted. RCMP are manning multiple checkpoints to secure the evacuation order area to keep people safe. Moving over to the Walroy Lake fire, current size is 794 hectares. Really good progress made on that incident yesterday. 4 operational single resources are assigned today, 55 firefighters working alongside the Kelowna Fire Department, and we have a total complement of structural personnel at 59 that are assisting the Kelowna Fire Department, as well as the wildland crews. As mentioned, the crews were able to establish what we call a 100-foot black line, and that's from the fire edge full extinguishment 100 feet in around the perimeter, and we're estimating that to be complete by end of shift tomorrow. This, of course, will play into us having the ability to work closely with the fire department in order to make recommendations to rescind further orders and get people home. The Clark Creek wildfire, we're estimating that size at 370 hectares. On the fire ground today, we have 2 operational single resources, 63 firefighters and 69 structural protection personnel. And as mentioned earlier in this briefing, there are some of the evacuation orders that'll be rescinded into alert areas. Our priorities continue to be responder safety, private property and government infrastructure, local and otherwise, as well as evacuation management to try to get people home as fast as we can when it's safe to do so, as well as any businesses open that were impacted by the orders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad. We're going to go now to Northwest Side Fire Rescue Chief Ross Kocharovsky. He's joining us online. If you can bring that up, thank you. Go ahead, Ross.
Thank you, Jody, and good morning, everybody. So I just want to start off by thanking an amazing group of people, and that's the Wilson's Landing Fire Department. First off, a guy who hasn't received enough recognition, someone that I get to work shoulder to shoulder with out here, back when this was just a dot on a map, who hasn't given up one day, is Chief Paul Zinovich. He has not only done an amazing job leading his crew out here, but he's also today leading several task forces. I can't thank him enough for all the great work that he's done and for his support that he's given me out here. And then the Wilson's Landing Fire Department, I've already talked about some of the things that they have faced. They're still continuing to show up. They're doing amazing work around this fire hall, whether it's administrative support, cleaning the fire hall, or boots on the ground. They've done such an incredible job, and Wilson's Landing is out here in full force. I'm happy to report that in the north, we received rain, and a lot of it. This, with lower temperatures, is going to really help with mopping up this fire. I'm also happy to report that we now have the numbers that everybody's looking for. But I want to remind everyone that these numbers range from damaged landscaping to total loss. In the RDCO West electoral area, and that is all I am speaking to today, we have had 90 properties either partially or fully damaged. I want to stress that these are not structures, but these are properties, as some properties such as the Lake Okanagan Resort have several structures on one property. Elwar has a total of almost 195 units within the property. I want to highlight again that the work cannot be complete, or that a lot of work cannot be complete. Hazard assessments have been done in these areas, and we will do our best to get you that information and any changes as that becomes available. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And next, if we could please have Jason Browland, West Kelowna Fire Chief, come to the mic.
Hi, well, good morning, everybody. As you've already heard, there are so many people behind this response, and even more so now skilled professionals as we move into the recovery phase of the incident, and you've heard from many of those today. I want to start out by expressing my sympathy for all of those who have lost homes as a part of this incident. I can now confirm that within the City of West Kelowna and Westbank First Nations, there is 84 properties that have some level of damage. And again, to qualify, this is properties with damage, not structures. And this is within the City of West Kelowna and Westbank First Nation area, which is where we deliver our fire service at West Kelowna Fire Rescue. This number may change as we continue to get further and further on the ground and our assessments get more and more in depth. So it rained last night, and that's a very positive sign. I think we had about an hour of rain, and it was mentioned almost 20 millimeters at the weather station in Rose Valley. So that, combined with the increased humidity and the cooler temperatures, is going to be a boost for our response to this fire. I just returned from flying the fire along with Mayor Milsom and Chief Louie, and I can say, as you can observe out there on the ground, that things are looking good. But I want to temper that with the fact that there is still a lot of work to be done before we can get you back to your homes, and I'm going to speak a little bit more to that. We are making incremental improvements out there in the field, but it's only because of hard work of all of the firefighters on the ground. We have had no structures lost in the last 24 hours. The firefighting overnight was sporadic and it was spotty. It was quieter last night than it was the night before, and I hope we can continue to build upon that. Today, I want to highlight some other folks who may not be getting the same type of attention, but who are also on the ground in a very big way, and that is members of the RCMP. We've asked a lot of the members of the RCMP throughout this incident. When we first started evacuating properties, they were the ones who were running door to door, knocking on the doors, and getting people out of harm's way. When we were in the midst of the firefight, they were the ones who were standing there with us. This is everything from constables who were out on the road, to detectives, to members of the management staff. They were all there, boots on the ground. They've knocked on every door that I've asked them to, and they've provided service at roadblocks and throughout your neighborhoods to keep your home safe while you were gone. But also more than that, they haven't just driven by fires when they happen. And I received some pictures late yesterday from Staff Sergeant Dixon in West Kelowna of his members fighting a fire with a garden hose. And, you know, as much as I've said for a number of these media conferences that, you know, we firefighters live here and we're committed to the community, well, so are the RCMP members who are out there in many cases doing the same type of work. So I want to just provide full credit to them. Yesterday and today is the first time that we've seen the hills and the mountains surrounding our community, and it does look pretty shocking. Last night, once again, the fire was highly visible. There was lots of smoke and there was glowing in the hills. So I just want to talk a little bit about that, and I have an ask for the public. Your notifications of smoke, flame, and fire are very important. However, if you're seeing smoke or small amounts of glowing within the fire's perimeter, we're aware of those. We have members on the ground patrolling of the fire service, of the BC Wildfire Service, and of the RCMP. However, if you see something outside of the fire's perimeter, or you see a significant amount of smoke or flame inside the perimeter that might indicate that a house is on fire, for example, we need to continue to have those reported to 911. So what I'm trying to do is balance what are multiple reports we're getting every day and night of, you know, smoke seen halfway up the mountain. We don't need to know about those. However, you know, if it's a new fire or a rapidly growing fire, we certainly do, and we'll have crews who will attend. So we're doing our best to get you home. We're making progress. There will be additional evacuation orders which will be rescinded today. But I want to talk a little bit about that process so that everyone understands what goes into it. They will come in small pieces. They will be nowhere near as large as when we asked you to leave. I want to share how we make these decisions so that people understand some of the things we're thinking about. We're looking at, first and foremost, is it safe to do so? So for me and my partners at the RCMP and the Wildfire Service, we're considering things like, is the fire out in the neighborhood? We're looking at debris and hazards that may be on the roads and in the properties. The Wildfire Service has technical expertise that helps us understand, is the neighborhood protected? Is there a fire guard or burned area? Is it tied in and mopped up around your homes? and only then would we begin to consider and move on to other things. Our local government employees are looking at things like your utilities to make sure that we have enough water to fight fires in that neighborhood, to make sure that your sewer is working, your power is secured or on, that your natural gas is secured or on. We'll be looking at making sure that your garbage is going to get collected when you return home on a regular schedule. Also, is the neighborhood secure? Is the route that you're going to travel to get home back to the evacuated area open and safe for you to travel on? Many of the streets are covered in debris, branches, ashes, rocks that have rolled down the hill, tree stumps. And we need to ensure that the streets are swept in many cases and clear for you to travel on. Only then we're analyzing the risk that's out there. Is there a chance that it gets worse in your neighborhood? We want to avoid having to evacuate you a second time if this incident escalates, because it's been proven that people are likely not to evacuate in some cases if they have to evacuate again. So we want to make sure there's no risk of that. And then we're looking at, is there any impact to our operations in returning you home? We have lots of firefighters operating in these neighborhoods. When we return people, we're adding more vehicles onto the streets, for example, and we need to do that in a safe way. In many cases, we're parking on the roads. We have equipment deployed out in the neighborhoods to provide sprinkler protection to structures. There's bladders and pumps and hoses running throughout some of these neighborhoods, and that's a factor to us getting you home quickly. So we put all of those things together. We meet multiple times a day to talk about them over a map and provide recommendations from the BC Wildfire Service to myself and the RCMP, who then analyze them and provide them up to the professionals at the EOC, who then take action on them. So I hope that gives you a glimpse into the process that we undergo to get you back to your homes. I'm feeling some optimism based on the weather. I ask for your continued patience. I thank everyone for all of their support. It's overwhelming to the firefighters, but it's fuel for them and keeps them going. Just before I wrap up, I'd like to thank the media for all of the coverage that they've provided. We've done our best to provide you with 24/7 access, and you've provided us a route to speak out to the evacuees during a very trying time. I'd encourage you to continue that. However, my priority now becomes returning people to their homes, and that communication will often be provided by the other professionals involved, including the EOC. So this will be an ongoing transition away from these regular briefings to a more normal operational tempo. I obviously have a very large fire department to run and a very large operation to work with my partner, Brad, and the BC Wildfire Service. So I will continue to find a way to communicate with the public, know that we will do that, but that there's a whole wide range of professionals now with far more expertise than me as we move away from firefighting and into the recovery phase and getting back to your homes. So I'll do my best to continue to answer questions from the media, and we'll work through this transition. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Brolin. So just a quick note from the Public Information Office, as it's been, I think, stated already by Doug, our communities are in different places right now. So with District of Lake Country and Kelowna having moved further ahead, I think, already into the recovery process. And as Chief Brolin just said, we may not end up doing these updates every single day, but we will still be accessible to residents every single day. So all our channels remain at Court Emergency, and we may still do some news briefings or specific information that is focusing on West Kelowna, West Bank First Nation, and the Regional District, because those are the communities that are still just starting to move into the recovery phase. I've also been asked this morning to address a little bit of information about the Emergency Support Services Program. We're a week into this, and we've seen some extraordinary acts of kindness, but that also means that we're moving into a position where some of the people that were evacuated at the beginning of the emergency will have their supports needing to be renewed. If your primary residence has been downgraded to an alert, or if the order has been rescinded and you're safely able to return to your home, you will no longer be available for emergency support services. They want to make clear that while they're there to support residents, it's not a replacement for your regular home insurance, and it's not intended for people who have tenant and household insurance. One of the really important things to know right now is that if you haven't done it already, you should please call your insurance underwriter. Or there's also a support in the Insurance Bureau of Canada, and I'm going to give a phone number now, but these will all also be on the Court Emergency website. So the Insurance Bureau of Canada is 1-844-227-5422, and they can help walk you through the insurance process. If you have questions about insurance coverage while you are still under order, or if you have lost or sustained significant property damage, ESS will still be there to support you with a coordination of accommodation. And if you remain on order or you have still got significant losses now, you may also be eligible for an extension of your accommodation and supports every 7 days. As they have said previously to you before, you'll get faster service if you have a BC Services card app that verifies your profile in the registration system and allows direct deposit to your account. And you can go to the BC Services app website to get help with registering for that. And then they also wanted you to know that if you do need to go back and re-register for your second set of supports, your first option is a remote number that's 1-800-585-4559, and you can speak to an ESS representative. Or you can go back to a registration center in person and wait to be supported. Obviously, if you're able to do that online or by a phone call, that would be a faster way for you to do that. The one other thing that they had asked me to mention was just that Service BC last night did send out an email to almost 8,000 evacuees who had registered for supports in Kelowna, West Kelowna, Lake Country, West Bank, and West Kelowna and West Bank First Nation. Citizens that did that would have been contacted by telephone or text last night. And we have had an overwhelming number of phone calls today with everybody being so aware of online fraud. There's people double checking that actually did come from Service BC, and yes, it did. So if you were registered with them, you would have got a phone call or an email, a phone call or a text last night. And just last but not least, they wanted to just comment again that they're so grateful for the staff and the many, many volunteers who are continuing in our area and across BC to both answer phone calls and to be at the registration centers. So that's the end of our presentations today. I did want to just make sure that you know that we have available for questions today, also sitting to my left here, Paul Gyps, who's with the City of Kelowna and is the leader at City of Kelowna and is one of our Emergency Operations Center directors, Dolores Ellingbo from West Bank First Nation, Sally Ginter from the Regional District of Central Okanagan, and also Superintendent Triance is here as well. So we're going to do how we've done this before, which is to take a question from the podium and then one online. You'll have one question and a follow-up. If we could have the first question. If you could say your name and your outlet, please.
My name is Alyssa Tebow from CTV News. I think this question may be for the RCMP. So this is the travel advisory for this area, or the travel ban rather, from the province was lifted yesterday, except with the exception of West Kelowna. It's sunny right now. There's going to be a desire to kind of get back to normal for a lot of people. Can you speak to what you're asking people to be aware of, activities they can and cannot do while this is still active?
So what I can say is that there are very much a need for accommodations still within the West Kelowna area for firefighting personnel and people supporting the fire. We are open in other areas of the Central Okanagan, North Okanagan, and South Okanagan for visitors to return. There are no restrictions in those areas. We ask people to abide by the laws and orders that are in place.
And do you want to speak to what those orders are, those laws and orders? Around fire activity.
Yeah, so please respect the orders in the evacuation orders that are in place. You can receive all of those updates through Central Okanagan websites there. They are changing every day. But there's going to be some really tricky areas that are going to be managed, such as the forest areas around. There remain a lot of hazards in the area as with respects to hydro lines in the West Kelowna and larger provincial areas surrounding that are damaged. There are areas where there are tree falling happening, active tree falling happening behind evacuated and ordered areas. But there's going to be a long time making this forested area safe. So downtown Kelowna is open, the businesses are open, people are welcome to return to business as usual with respects to accessing our business communities and our residences. We encourage people to enjoy the Okanagan in ways that they do and respect the fire ordered areas.
Great, thanks, Superintendent. Bailey, I think we have a question online.
Yep, so Rob Monroe, I see your hand is raised. You can unmute your microphone and ask your question. Just a reminder, we're taking one question and one follow-up question.
Thank you. It's Rob Monroe at infonews.ca. Just wondering about people, when can they start phoning in and checking their addresses, and what level of confidentiality is there? Do I have to show them actually living there? Can somebody just start phoning checking multiple addresses online?
Thank you, Doug Gilchrist, current EOC manager. Yeah, the website will be open later today. We're beta testing it right now. We don't have an exact timeline for you, but we'll put that up on core.emergency.ca when it is available, anticipated later today. It is intended for homeowners only to go on there to check their own addresses. So we'd ask you to please be respectful of that.
Hi Rob, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, this may be for Superintendent Triance. We've had a lot of stuff happening up in the Shuswap with conflicts between police and security forces and residents. We've had a lot of equipment stolen or misappropriated up there by the residents. We've got people trying to get in. And I'm just wondering, in this region, how is that in terms of people taking firefighting equipment or trying to get in past the police lines and that sort of thing?
So we have absolutely had people trying to access evacuated orders. I am not aware of any stolen or damaged fire equipment by individuals who are accessing the evacuated ordered areas. But what I'm asking for from the public is their cooperation. And the police on the checkpoints are doing their absolute best with respects to trying to gain cooperation from individuals. Where we've had individuals run roadblocks and blast right past the police officers, we've had to take enforcement action. And that's the last thing that we want to be doing in these cases. We know that emotions are running high. We know that it is a really tough time for some people, and it is impacting their livelihood, their orchards, their businesses. But I can assure you that these orders are in place for the safety and security of all residents and all communities. And it does impact firefighting operations in those areas. And I'll give you an example. If we have air support planned in for a specific area and they're going to drop water on an area, we have somebody accessing that area, that will hinder the the fire suppression efforts in that area by air support if we now have somebody who has run a roadblock and gone in there. So please cooperate. We really have those orders in place for the reasons that they are requiring safety and security in that area. And at this time, we don't have confirmed property crime reports, but I am not ignorant to the fact that there will be some that will come as people return to their properties. I do believe that we aren't able to hold every line, but I can assure residents that we have active patrols in all of those areas. We will action every request that is put out. So if you see something, say something. We need you to call 911. If on your home cameras you are observing somebody behind an evacuated ordered area, please call 911. We've had police officers engage with individuals accessing the area in unauthorized ways, and those individuals have all been either arrested or escorted out, depending on their intentions and their actions behind the lines.
Thank you, Superintendent. Do we have a question at the mic?
Hi, Rob Gibson here with Castanet. I just want to be clear, to have the folks who have lost their home, I'm not sure what's to take this, have they been notified at this point? Have all the people who've lost their homes been notified?
They have not. In Lake Country, all homeowners who have lost their assets have been contacted. In Kelowna, 3 of the 4 property owners have been contacted. In the west side, so WFN, West Kelowna and the Regional District, they have not yet all been notified, and they will through this online process. So once they go in and self-identify through their address search, they'll be given an opportunity to contact someone personally, and we'll reach out through our phone lines to talk to them and walk them through the level of damage that's happened in their area.
Okay, I just have a follow-up on the airspace. Maybe you want to talk about the business side of things. I mean, lots of business can't get in and out, no flights, no cherries, nothing's leaving. Has there been higher level discussions about when that switches over? I know they're trying to get people out at night.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a day-to-day discussion with Transport Canada and the BC Wildfire Service, making sure that first and foremost they have access to the airspace to fight the fires and do the suppression efforts they need. Second priority, and it's a high priority, is to get our airport back open. We do have limited flights leaving on the evening basis, previously from 9 to 6:30. That's been extended as of today from 8:30 p.m. to 7:30 a.m. So a small amount of flexibility has been added, and we're having daily discussions to try and see that expanded while we balance the needs of BC Wildfire Service.
Is there
Thank you, Rob. I
shrinking
think that's
piece
the
for
two,
BCWS?
that's the 2 questions. Thank you so much. Is there somebody else that has a question for the mic? This question is for the Senator. Yeah, thank you.
Question for Brad. We saw on social media last night so many people posting videos of rain, happily seeing the rain coming down. You mentioned that in West Kelowna, 22 millimeters was recorded, I think that's what you said, overnight?
That's just, our station recorded 2.0
Oh, okay.
millimeters.
Can you talk a little bit about the impact the rain made, and are we anywhere close to this fire being deemed held?
The rain is clearly helpful, I think, as everybody knows, and what that tends to do is help extinguish some minor spot fires. Really makes an impact on the fine fuels, so that's the surface litter. And that's the primary driver for where spot fires get when they catch and they begin to accelerate. So the other big driver that often gets overlooked is the relative humidity. So when you have rain, you're getting close to 100% relative humidity, and that is a major driver in fire behavior, both in a positive and negative way. In regards to changing of status, we're making really good progress due to the hard work on the fire ground, and obviously looking at that every day. We hope to have some good news in the next 24 to 48 hours with some of the fires on the East Branch or on in Lake Country and Kelowna. So again, day to day based on activities on the fire ground, but with this amount of horsepower and more coming into the incident, we're moving as fast as we can to get them into being held status.
Thank you,
This question is for Dolores Ellingbo. Just can you speak specifically to the West Bank First Nation, what the situation is on the ground there, your message for members of your community when it comes to these the Grouse Complex fires?
Thank you very much. For West Bank First Nation, we have committed to working united with the Regional District and the City of West Kelowna, so we are responding as one. For my members, I just want them to know that their interests and their homes and the infrastructure has been very much, we haven't suffered the same degree of losses as our neighbors, and we are very grateful for that. We've been working, our staff have been working side by side with all of the different task forces that are out there on the ground. We are also working together with the recovery plan we have a lot of great staff members that are there to support in that way as well. And we have a lot of members that have been stepping forward, volunteering, and getting all the resources that we need. I'm very proud of my community for their willingness, their hospitality in opening up. We've opened up the gym. We've provided, we had our public works team go out and remove the chlorine at our water pump. That was a dangerous situation for them, but that was in aid of the firefighting efforts. So we have been working side by side and will continue to do that moving forward. Thank you.
Can you quantify the damage at all when you say not as bad? Like, what exactly does that mean? Do we have any sense of what exactly that looks like?
I don't like to give out numbers, and it's been very difficult. Our system does not necessarily integrate well with the RDCOs, so that's where we're having some difficulty. But preliminary, right now, we have 11 units and a fourplex that has been damaged. I don't know the complete extent, and we still need to confirm. That's a preliminary number, and I don't want to suggest in any way that that's the final.
Thank you. One more question at the
Question is for Chief Rowland. These news conferences, you know, people are hearing them and contacting us, and I know some people in West Kelowna have a very strong desire to get home. And when they hear that long list of checks that you have to make first, I think people might be willing to risk a flat tire. They don't need the roads swept. They really want to get home. Do you feel that?
Absolutely, I do. And as you noted, Kent, the list of things we look at is long. And, you know, if we can't get the street swept, I understand that. That's not why we're holding people back. We're holding people back because we're still firefighting in the neighborhood. There's hoses and pumps. I can't have you operating around that. I also can't put you back if there's still fire burning just in your backyard or nearby. These are the bigger factors that are keeping people out, but those are the bigger pieces of work that are being done in the neighborhoods. I think we've shown yesterday and today that we are able to move neighborhoods home as it's safe to do so. We're going to continue to do that wherever possible, but there are many factors that go into you returning to your home, and I appreciate all of the patience you've shown. I'm still out of my house, as is my family. I'm feeling the same things you guys are. I'm running out of underwear too, folks. And I get it. We're going to get this across the finish line, like I said yesterday. Just continue to be patient with us so we can make sure we do it safely.
Thank you. And just last comment, we're getting news as it happens from the EOC today. Just one more comment on the website, please, from Sally Ginter.
Thank you, Jody. I've spent the last week in partnership with Paul Gibbs from the City of West Kelowna, and of course Dolores, WFN, and Doug from the City of Kelowna, and want to thank them very much for their partnership as we have navigated this extraordinary circumstance. I would like to comment regarding the decision to move the information to the website. In a perfect world, our preference, without question, would be to personally call every single homeowner and be with them when they receive what is probably the worst news they have ever received. That is our preference. But today we live in a day where social media and we have photos and information that is flying around faster than we can even begin to think we can manage. This morning on the news, I saw someone looking through a camera, and for the first time they saw their house was gone. This morning when I'm having my morning cup of coffee, I watched someone in real time experience the worst news of their life. The reason we're doing this website isn't because we don't care. The reason we're doing this website is because we do. Because we know that this is the information that homeowners want to know. We will support them after the fact. We have the resources in place. We will be with them and do everything we can. But we also know the number one burning question they have is, do I have a home? And we want to be able to get that information to them as quickly as possible. That is the reason why we have gone this strategy. And I wanted to be clear. Thank you for this opportunity.